Artemisia I of Caria, the admiral who outsmarted kings. The woman Xerxes should have listened to. The sea is full of men. Kings, generals, warriors. Every ship cutting through the waves belongs to a world where power is almost entirely male. And then there is one exception. A woman standing on the deck of a warship, calm, focused, watching one of the largest invasions in human history unfold before her eyes. Her name is Artemisia I of Caria, and even the mighty Xerxes I listens when she speaks. That alone should tell you something. Because Xerxes is not merely a king, he is ruler of the vast Achaemenid Empire, an empire stretching across continents, an empire so enormous that ancient writers struggle to describe it. Yet, among countless advisors, generals, and nobles, one of the voices he trusts most belongs to a woman. That woman is Artemisia, and unlike many queens in history, she earns her reputation not through marriage, not through inheritance, not through intrigue, through war. You feel it immediately when stepping into the world of Caria, a coastal kingdom in what is now southwestern Turkey, a place where mountains meet the sea, where merchants, sailors, and soldiers cross paths daily. The sea shapes everything: trade, politics, power, and young Artemisia grows up understanding its language, the tides, the winds, the dangers. While many noble women learn courtly etiquette, Artemisia learns strategy. That difference will change history. Eventually, she becomes ruler of Caria. Already unusual, women rarely rule in the ancient world. Women commanding fleets are even rarer. Yet Artemisia seems completely uninterested in what is considered normal. Then comes the crisis that defines her life. Persia prepares for war against Greece. Not a border dispute, not a minor campaign, a massive invasion. The culmination of decades of rivalry, the kind of conflict that reshapes civilizations. And Xerxes demands ships. Many rulers provide them. Artemisia does more. She personally commands them. Pause and picture the scene. Hundreds of warships gathering, thousands of sailors, thousands of soldiers, and among all the admirals, one woman. You can almost imagine the reactions: curiosity, skepticism, amusement. The same reactions history repeatedly gives extraordinary women. Artemisia answers them the same way many extraordinary women do, by proving herself, again and again. Soon even her enemies take notice, because she possesses something valuable: judgment. Not reckless courage, not blind ambition, judgment. A rare quality among rulers preparing for war. And that quality brings her face to face with one of history's most famous decisions. As the Persian invasion advances, Xerxes gathers his commanders. The Greeks are preparing for a naval battle. Many Persian leaders want to attack, immediately, aggressively. They see overwhelming numbers and assume victory is inevitable. Artemisia disagrees. You can almost feel the silence in the room, because disagreeing with powerful men is dangerous. Disagreeing with an emperor can be fatal. Yet Artemisia speaks anyway. She advises caution, patience. She warns Xerxes not to rush into battle. The Greeks, she argues, are stronger at sea than many Persians realize. The narrow waters favor them. The risks are enormous. It is bold advice, unpopular advice, and as history often demonstrates, the wisest advice is frequently the least welcome. Xerxes listens, but not enough, because soon the Persian fleet sails toward a narrow strait called Battle of Salamis, one of the most famous naval battles ever fought, and Artemisia is about to find herself trapped inside a disaster she predicted. Yet somehow, that disaster will become the source of her greatest legend, because when kings panic, when fleets collapse, when empires begin losing control, Artemisia does something extraordinary. She thinks, and thinking may prove more valuable than any sword. Right as the Persian fleet sails toward the battle Artemisia warned against, because next, the Admiral of Caria enters the Battle of Salamis and outsmarts both enemies and allies in a moment that becomes legendary for more than 2,000 years. The battle begins exactly as Artemisia feared. Chaos. Not glorious chaos, not heroic chaos, the real kind. Ships colliding, oars splintering, men screaming. The narrow waters of Battle of Salamis become a trap, and the Persian fleet sails directly into it. You can almost see the problem unfolding. The Persians possess more ships, many more. On paper, they should dominate. But battles are not fought on paper. They are fought in wind, water, confusion. The narrow strait limits movement. The massive Persian fleet struggles to maneuver. Ships block one another. Orders become difficult to communicate. The advantage of numbers begins transforming into a liability, exactly as Artemisia I of Caria predicted. The Greeks strike, fast, aggressive, disciplined. You can feel the panic spreading through parts of the Persian line. Captains trying to reposition, ships drifting into one another, commanders realizing too late that the battle is slipping away. And somewhere in the middle of this disaster, Artemisia remains calm. That is what separates great commanders from ordinary ones, not avoiding danger, thinking clearly inside it. Soon, she faces a deadly problem. A Greek warship begins pursuing her. Fast, relentlessly. The distance closes. Every moment increases the danger. You can imagine her options. Fight directly, risk destruction. Attempt escape, perhaps fail. Most commanders would choose one of those paths. Artemisia chooses a third, a path so unexpected that historians still discuss it 25 centuries later. She spots another ship ahead, a ship belonging to the Persian side, an ally, or at least it should be. Then, Artemisia makes an astonishing decision. She rams it, hard. Wood explodes, the ship sinks, men disappear beneath the waves. For a moment, nobody understands what just happened. Then the Greek captain chasing her reaches a conclusion. The ship Artemisia attacked appeared Persian. Therefore, Artemisia must be Greek, or perhaps she has switched sides. Either way, she is no longer worth pursuing. The Greek ship turns away, and Artemisia survives. You can almost hear historians arguing across the centuries. Was it brilliant? Was it ruthless? Was it both? Probably. That tends to be true of successful wartime decisions. The remarkable thing is that her gamble works perfectly. Not only does she escape, she gains admiration. Because far away from the fighting, Xerxes I is watching. The Persian king has positioned himself on shore to observe the battle. He cannot see every detail, no one can, but he sees Artemisia's maneuver, and he misinterprets it. He believes she has sunk a Greek ship, not an allied one. The story says Xerxes is so impressed that he famously declares, "My men have become women, and my women men." Whether those are the exact words or not hardly matters, because the legend survives, and legends survive for a reason. The emperor is essentially saying one thing: Artemisia performed better than many of his male commanders, at one of the most important battles of the ancient world. The irony is extraordinary. The battle itself becomes a disaster for Persia. The Greeks win. The invasion begins unraveling. One of history's greatest military campaigns starts moving toward failure. And in the aftermath, Artemisia once again demonstrates why she is different from almost everyone around her. She tells Xerxes the truth, not what he wants to hear, the truth. She advises him to retreat, to stop risking everything, to preserve what remains of his forces. Again, she offers the wisest counsel available. Again, history proves her correct. Because the invasion eventually fails, the empire survives. But the dream of conquering Greece slips away. And through it all, Artemisia's reputation only grows. Think about how remarkable that is. The Persians lose. Yet one of the heroes remembered from the campaign is a Persian admiral, a woman. Not because she won, because she thought clearly while others did not. Because she predicted disaster before it arrived. Because she adapted when disaster came. And because she survived when survival seemed impossible. Most rulers are remembered for power. Artemisia is remembered for judgment, and sometimes judgment is the rarer quality. Soon, her story will move beyond the battlefield, beyond Salamis, into something even more unusual. Because thousands of years later, among all the kings, generals, and warriors of the Persian invasion, one of the names people still remember most clearly belongs to a woman standing on the deck of a warship. Most commanders disappear into history, especially ancient commanders. Time erases them. Their victories fade. Their defeats blur together. A few names survive, and fewer still survive for more than 2,000 years. Yet, here we are, still talking about Artemisia I of Caria. That alone tells you something, because Artemisia accomplishes something extraordinary. She becomes unforgettable. Not through conquest, not through empire, not through sheer military power, through intelligence. The ancient historian Herodotus plays a major role in that survival, which is remarkable when you think about it. Herodotus is Greek. The Persians are the enemy. The Battle of Salamis is a Greek victory, yet even he cannot ignore Artemisia. You can almost sense his admiration slipping through the pages. Again and again, he pauses to describe her, not as a curiosity, not as a novelty, as a capable commander. That matters, because ancient writers were not famous for generously praising women, especially women fighting on the opposing side. Yet Artemisia earns that respect, and respect from your enemies is often worth more than praise from your friends. The deeper you look into her story, the more unusual she becomes. Most female figures remembered from antiquity are queens, wives, mothers, political figures. Artemisia is remembered as a naval commander, a strategist, a military advisor. The distinction is important. She stands in a category occupied almost entirely by men, and she belongs there, comfortably, confidently, without apology. You can almost imagine younger commanders watching her, wondering how she commands such authority. The answer is surprisingly simple. Competence, not birth, not beauty, not luck. Competence. The sea does not care whether you are male or female. A storm doesn't care. A warship doesn't care. An enemy fleet certainly doesn't care. The ocean judges everyone by the same standard. Can you lead? Can you think? Can you survive? Artemisia answers yes, again and again. And perhaps that explains why her story feels surprisingly modern, because she faces a challenge familiar to many women throughout history, being the only one in the room, the only woman among admirals, the only woman advising kings, the only woman commanding warships. And instead of shrinking from that reality, she uses it. Her confidence becomes impossible to ignore. Her judgment becomes impossible to dismiss. Her success becomes impossible to deny. That transformation fascinates people. It fascinated the ancient world. It fascinates us today. Because there is something timeless about watching someone exceed every expectation placed upon them, especially expectations that were unfair to begin with. The truth is that Artemisia never needed to prove women could lead. She simply led. And in doing so, she proved it anyway. Long after Xerxes is gone, long after the Persian invasion ends, long after the ships of Salamis rot beneath the sea, her name remains. Not because she ruled the largest kingdom, not because she commanded the biggest fleet, but because when kings made mistakes, she saw them coming. When generals panicked, she adapted. When disaster struck, she survived. And history has always had a soft spot for survivors, especially clever ones. So we leave Artemisia here, standing at the prow of a warship, the wind pulling at her cloak, the sea stretching endlessly toward the horizon. Around her stand kings, princes, and generals, men who command armies, men who rule nations. Yet, among them all, one of the sharpest minds belongs to the woman from Caria, the admiral who warned an emperor, the strategist who survived Salamis, the queen who outsmarted kings. If this story stayed with you, if you felt the salt spray, the tension of command, and the thrill of watching intelligence triumph over arrogance don't stop here. There are more women like Artemisia, women who changed history not through brute force, but through judgment, courage, and extraordinary minds. Stay dangerous, stay loud, and never let them hold the pen.